What's up, everybody? This is Evolve with Nathan Barna. Today, I wanted to talk about the system that I use with my clients that I've adopted and adapted from Paul Chek in studying with the Chek Institute. This is something that I use with myself a lot, and that obviously I use with my clients and the athletes that I work with. And it's pretty simple, but also very effective and very profound, and can be applied in a multitude of different circumstances and can be used at a deep level if need be, which often does happen. So basically it's the 1, 2, 3, 4 approach, and the system actually goes all the way up to 8 or 9, I believe, but most of the time the majority of the work happens within the 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will probably touch on the 5, 6, and 7 briefly. But essentially, I may have mentioned this before, but I wanted to get into it a little deeper today and maybe give you guys some practical application that you can use in your life when you're working with yourself or working with other people, and ultimately trying to create a program or an outline, a foundation for yourself. So the 1 stands for one love, and this has to do with your dream. You know, what is your overarching dream, or ideally your legacy that you have for yourself? What is that thing or multiple things that acts as your guiding compass when you are making the decisions and taking action in your day-to-day life, and ultimately creating values for yourself, which we'll get into here more in a minute? What is that thing? You know, for me, my kind of overarching legacy is that I choose to be an example and an embodiment of strength in every aspect of my life, so that I can be a source of guidance and inspiration and wisdom to help other people create their best versions of themselves and the aspects of their lives, so that we can continue to co-create the experience that we want on this earth in this time that involves the most amount of joy and love and creativity for everyone and everything. So as you can see, it can be something very broad, or it could be something as simple and practical as, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds. But the point of this is that it needs to be something big enough and something strong enough that can act as a guiding force to continue to propel you forward, especially when things inevitably become challenging or motivation inevitably wanes, and you know you have to rely on that foundation of why you were doing what you're doing in the first place. Because there's plenty of times, especially in my life, where you know I may not want to go train, or I may not want to do my studying, or all of the habits I've developed for myself. But I know when I feel like that, I always ask myself again, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I know that I'm choosing to do all these things. Nobody's making me go train. Nobody's making me do the meal prepping and getting to bed on time and all of these things that I've created for myself. Nobody's making me do those things. I'm choosing to do that. So why am I choosing to do that on a regular basis? When I ask myself that question, it always goes back to that dream. And that allows me to continue to move forward, because I know by doing those things, I'm continuing to move forward in my dream. And if you can't find what your dream is or what your ultimate legacy is, then ask yourself what your nightmare is. What is it that you absolutely don't want in your life? And that in itself can be a starting place for many people to get the ball rolling. Okay. So I could probably do a whole series on just creating a dream for yourself, but I'm sure you get the idea. So 2 is 2 forces. Within the entire universe, everything is created out of 2 forces. They come from 2 forces. You can call it yin and yang. You can call it positive, negative. You can call it masculine, feminine. You can call it empty and full. There's many different names that you can give it, but essentially it's the complementary opposites that inherently make up everything in our universe. So when you're looking at your life, you have to decide what areas you might be out of balance. Most of the time in our society, majority of people are too yang. They're always trying to do more and more and more without taking the adequate time to recover and rest and restore the energy and the resources that they're expending by trying to do all these things and trying to keep up with everything, and ultimately adding more and more of a stress load on their life. So, when I work with people, that's usually what it comes down to. Is we go through a series of different questionnaires, and just talking to people, I'm able to get a sense of what areas they may be out of balance with. So you have to realize stress accumulates in the body, and it doesn't matter if it's coming from your work, or coming from relationships, or coming from even the food that you're eating. If you're not eating high quality foods, and you're eating foods that are toxic with pesticide residues and genetically modified organisms, and amongst other things. So there can be many different areas that these stresses are coming from, and they add to your overall stress load. So, if somebody comes to me and they want to lose weight, or they want a training program because they want to get stronger, but I find that they are already running very hot and have a significant stress load from all the factors that I just mentioned, then me adding an exercise program on top of that is essentially going to be adding stress to the system, is just going to further perpetuate the imbalance and further add to the stress load. So that's where I have to, and you have to, be conscious of those areas you might be out of balance, and if you're doing too much or not doing enough, and knowing when you need to pull back and take more time to do more activities, or rather not even to do, but to allow yourself to be more, so that you can create the energy and restore yourself to have the vitality and have the resources to be able to do the things that you want to do to continue to move towards your dreams. Okay, so then moving to number 3, within every decision that you make, there's always 3 choices that you have, or 3 paths that you can take. The first is the optimal, and this is usually it's always the decision that is good for you as well as everybody on your dream team. And if you think that there aren't people on your dream team and you think you're doing everything alone, then ask yourself, who made the toilet paper you wipe your ass with? Who made the clothes that you're wearing? Who built the house or apartment that you're in? Who made your car? And pretty soon you can see that even when we think we're alone, we need each other to co-create our dreams, even if it feels like a very individual dream that we have. So that goes into, the decisions that you're making on a regular basis, even something as simple as what clothes am I wearing and what car am I driving, what food am I eating? Because if the choices that you are making are maybe providing instant gratification because maybe you get a really nice fast car, or maybe you wearing very designer expensive high high novelty clothing, or you're eating food that just tastes good and that may not be the best decision for your overall health as well as the health of others, then ask yourself, where is that stuff coming from and what am I supporting by making those decisions? And just only supporting me, or is it supporting everyone by making that decision? And then the second path is the suboptimal, which we kind of just alluded to, which is basically the decision that's good for you that maybe provides instant gratification, but may not necessarily be good for everybody else on your dream team. And it's not to say that this is a bad decision, because even though it's suboptimal, there's still an opportunity to grow and to learn, even if you make a suboptimal decision. And then the last path is the basically doing nothing. So doing nothing has two derivatives, positive and negative. Positive is, you may need more time, or you may need to step away to gather yourself or gather more information or resources to make an optimal decision. Or the worst choice of all, relatively, is to choose to do nothing out of pure apathy, or because you don't want to make a decision, or because you're maybe suffering from paralysis by analysis and you've gathered too much information and are saturated to the point where you don't know what to do, which happens quite often. So within your dream, once you establish your dream, and then once you've kind of assessed yourself and taken stock and have seen where you are out of balance with, and like I said, this is something that I take the majority of my clients and athletes through, so I can see exactly where they're out of balance with. So if that's something you want to get further into, I can be a resource for that, or you can study Paul Chek and the Chek Institute and kind of learn that system of questionnaires and different methods and techniques for assessing that. And then once you figure out where you're out of balance, then you have to start making decisions that are going to maintain that balance and are going to move you closer to your dream. And then number 4 is the four doctors. So in this system, there are 4 doctors that if you listen to these doctors, then you will not need to go to an actual doctor, because you will be creating health in your life and maximizing your body's own recovery and healing capacities. And these 4 doctors are Dr. Movement, Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, and Dr. Happiness. And Dr. Happiness is your usually your chief physician, because these are the things that you choose to do on a regular basis, ideally daily, that are going to create happiness in your life, create joy, create that sense of pleasure that allows you to feel good and feel fulfilled and continue to move forward on your path. So even before that, within each one of these doctors, you can create values for yourself surrounding that doctor to maximize that doctor's function. So like I just said, Dr. Happiness, what is happy making for you? What provides that sense of joy and pleasure, and what activities or states of being do you feel that you need in your life to maintain that overall sense of happiness? And that isn't to say that you're supposed to be externally, happy and laughing and smiling all day long, every single day. But when you have these practices and you have these values in your life, they help to maintain that sense of homeostasis and equanimity. So even when you're facing challenges or when things maybe are not going your way, you are still able to maintain that sense of contentment and that sense of peace and calmness, and like I said, the equanimity. So then Dr. Happy, and you have your Dr. Movement, which obviously has to do with how you're moving your body as well as how you're moving your thoughts. And obviously, this includes working out, but it also includes a concept called working in, which has to do with using movement to restore and to gain more energy than you are expending to actually do the movement. And this is helping, again, to help create that homeostasis and to create balance. So within Dr. Movement, you have to decide, how much time and days per week is optimal for you to work out to continue to move towards your dream. Obviously, an elite level athlete, the amount of time that they're going to spend training and working out is going to be completely different than maybe a stay-at-home mom or a businessman that just needs to maintain an overall sense or overall level of fitness and health just to do their job effectively and to be healthy and to create health in their life, to be able to do the things that they enjoy doing as well as their work. So that's going to be individual for you, but then also deciding how much work in time you need, how much time do you need to take, whether it's walking, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's yoga, things that are using movement to be restorative. And then also when it comes to thinking, because if you may not be actually running all day every day, but if you're running in your mind because you have a what we call monkey mind, and you're continuously running from this thing to that thing to this thing to that thing, that in itself can create an additional stress load on your body. So how are you moving with your thoughts? And then Dr. Diet obviously has to do with your nutrition, what you're consuming, and really has to do with what you value as far as the level of quality that you're eating every day, the food that you're eating every day. So how much of a percentage of high quality, organic, minimally processed whole foods are you eating on a daily basis based on your values and based on what you say your dream is? Do you value eating according to your metabolic type? Are you ideally supposed to be eating more fat and protein versus relative to carbs, or vice versa, more carbs relative to fat and protein for your optimal health and function and blood sugar management? And are you paying attention to allow the variance that may occur day to day and even moment to moment within that framework? And then, you can even include how many times a day you're eating, when you're eating. Again, all these values are subjective to you and to what you say your dream is for yourself. And then lastly, Dr. Quiet has to do with obviously your sleep, but as well as the time that you take on a regular basis for your introspection, contemplation, meditation, any kind of spiritual practice that you have for yourself to just be with yourself. So, how many hours of sleep do you feel is optimal for you on a nightly basis? And then what times do you go to bed and wake up on a regular basis? And then how much time per day or how many times per week do you feel like you need to include some type of spiritual practice in your life for maintaining, again, that sense of balance? So as you can see, the 4 doctors are where you create that framework of values for yourself so that you can use that as a foundation to make all of your decisions off of that are going to maintain homeostasis as well as move you in the direction of your dreams. And so when you have that framework for yourself, you know what your yeses are because you wrote them out and you clearly identified what you want. So once you know what you want, you also know what you have to say no to because you know what may go against those values. As if your boss asks you to work more hours or some opportunity presents itself that maybe you are going to make more money but may take away from your values of sleep and your values of happiness and your values of movement, then you have to make that decision to see if taking that opportunity is going to continue to move you towards your dreams, your ultimate dreams. Because a lot of times what may look good at first on a surface level can ultimately detract you and actually move you away from your stated dream for yourself. Okay, and so briefly we're going to touch on 5 and 6 now and slightly on 7. So 5 has to do with 5 program design factors. So these are the different factors that you need to consider when you're making not only an exercise program, but an overall lifestyle program to help implement all these different habits that are going to continue to propel you forward. So you have to consider your time, how much time are you willing to make available for different activities that are going to move you towards your dream. How much money do you have? Finances do you have to spend on whether it's different equipment or coaching or whatever that might be? What resources do you have as far as your equipment, access to different facilities, access to different modalities of training, things of that nature? And then how much energy do you have? So obviously you can have all the money and all the resources in the world, but if you're not managing yourself effectively, you're not sleeping, and you don't have energy to do those things, then it's pretty pointless. And then lastly, willingness, because you can have all the energy in the world and all the money and all the time, everything, but if you're not willing to do the work to move you forward, then it doesn't matter in the first place. So those are 5 different program design factors that need to be considered. And then 6 is the 6 foundational principles. And these are sleep, nutrition, hydration, breathing, thinking, and movement. So we've kind of touched on a lot of these areas, but essentially these are the 6 key principles that you need to consider and ideally that need to be optimized in order to create optimal health and well-being for you. And then lastly is 7, which has to do with the 7 chakras or 7 energy centers in your body. that can become out of balance, or that can be harmonized and optimized and can relate to different emotions and different organ functions and things of that nature that are kind of a little bit out of the scope for this discussion right now. So hopefully you can see that by, implementing this system and kind of following the steps and optimizing each step along the way, you can create this framework for yourself that makes it pretty simple to move forward and to make good decisions and create good habits for yourself to move towards whatever your dream is. And like I said, this is something that I go through over and over again. And when I'm kind of meditating or taking stock of where I'm at and where I need to be, I refer back to these steps. And the same thing with the clients and athletes that I work with. It always comes back to these things because these are literally the foundation in which we build our dreams on. That's it.